All right, Sauna week continues. Here we are again.
Happy as can be.
That's right. It's a good
Hi,
thing we're
Betsy.
not in the sauna this whole time. That might be a little much, but we're talking about sauna the whole time.
Welcome to our fifth annual National Sauna Week, bigger and hotter than ever, and bringing you all of the things that you love about sauna. And this today is a really special one. We're diving into the spiritual side of sauna, which is so, so, so important. And I will turn it over to our Executive Director, Tommy Flanagan, to talk a little bit about Finlandia Foundation National. Tommy, thanks for being here.
Thank you. Minia is our communications director here at Finlandia Foundation National. I want to thank her for putting together such a fantastic program this year. So, hello everybody. Hei kaikille ympäri maailmaa ja tervetuloa ja hyvää saunaviikkoa jo viidettä vuotta. Hej alla runt om i världen, välkomna och glad bastuvecka eller saunavecka för femte året i rad. It's great to have you all here for the fifth year in a row. Finlandia Foundation, of course, has been around for more than 5 years. We've been around for 70 plus years promoting and supporting the Finnish and Finnish American community in the United States. These days, though, we aren't just for Finns and Finnish Americans, but also for friends of Finland. As we see Finland increasing sort of in public discourse across North America, whether it be in happiness or sauna or any other topic, we think it's a great time to welcome people into our community who have an interest in Finland as well. We run a scholarships and grants program where we award funds to people doing interesting work, studies, or projects that are relevant to Finnish America every year. That's one of the core things that we do. And we also operate with about 60 chapters throughout the United States, from the Northeast to the upper Midwest, the Southeast, Florida, Washington, California. You can always find a little bit of Finnish America no matter where you're at. We also operate the Finnish American Heritage Center in Hancock, Michigan, where we've got our Northwind Bookstore, the Finnish American Folk School, Finlandia Art Gallery, as well as the Finnish American Folk School. So check us out online at finlandiafoundation.org if you're interested in checking out our work. Everything we do is built on 6 core principles, and sauna is one of those things that cross-cuts all of them, whether it's heritage and history, forward thinking and innovation, or partnership and collaboration, like we're doing right now, getting together and talking about sauna for this 5th year in a row. So with that, thank you for being here. Thanks to our panelists today. This is an important day we have lined up for Sauna Week on a really important topic. We get to go a little bit deeper into sauna itself as a cultural practice as well, and to our sponsors for making this happen. So enjoy today's session. Thank you for being here, especially to Dr. Kaarina Kailo, and I'll turn it back to Minea.
Kiitos, Tommy. And we'll just do our quick thank you of the sponsors because we're going to get into the content with Dr. Kari Nakailo soon. I'm excited to hear all of the things she has to share. So thank you to Finnair for donating that round trip ticket to send one lucky winner to the World Sauna Forum hosted by Sauna from Finland. So if you haven't entered to win, you have a little over a day left to enter. It closes tomorrow at midnight Pacific time, and then we'll announce the winner at the final session on Saturday. You do not have to be present at that session to win. It's a little bit different than the raffles we do, so just so you know, but join that session anyway in case you're curious to see. And thank you to our silver sponsors, Caritti, Redwood Outdoors, and Michigan Sauna, and our Birch sponsors. And these folks are offering personal sauna discounts. So if you go to our website, you can get up to $700 in savings if you wanted to buy a sauna this week. So thank you to our Birch sponsors for that. And find a sauna near you because it's not enough to just talk about it. We want people to go into the sauna. So we have 30 amazing sauna partners across the country offering discounts this week or this month. So check that out as well on our website. And thank you to our partners. Our raffle prize today is from Blissful Bath Candle Company. So stick around for that. You can be the lucky winner of a body butter and a sugar scrub. And our disclaimer today, please respect the intellectual property. Our presenters have done research galore to bring you all of this beautiful knowledge and wisdom. So we ask that if you do quote them or use their words and their wisdom to acknowledge them, to credit them, or to ask them directly for permission. So thank you for respecting our speakers' intellectual property. And with that, I would like to introduce Dr. Karina Kailo. Dr. Karina Kailo has worked, let's get this over here so I can see the words. There's too many screens happening today, huh? Dr. Karina Kailo has worked in Canada and Finland as associate or full professor of women's studies at Concordia University, Oulu University, and the Finnish Academy as a senior scholar. She is currently a fellow at the European Archaeomythological Institute, a co-founder of Creatrix Studies at Mago Academy, USA, and thesis supervisor at the Institute of Integral Studies, California. Wow. She focuses now on her books, of which 5 have been on the bear religion and mythology, comparative sauna studies, gift economy, and Finnish mythology, particularly Finnish and Nordic goddesses, and terra feminarum. She illustrates her books with her quilt art. So Dr. Karina Kailo, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you.
I will get your slides up on the screen next, and I will hand it over to you. Kiitos.
Well, thank you very much for organizing this wonderful event. It's really precious.
It is our pleasure. And thanks for being here. I'll go off camera now, and you can let me know when we need to switch the slides.
Okay. So this is my most recent book, published by Springer, but it was a bit of a shock to me because they priced it at 120 euros. So it's not available easily for sauna lovers who are not in some academic institution. So if anyone's interested in getting this, it's my life's work. I'm about 300-400 pages. If you do a review, they will give it to you free from Springer. So just a hint. Next. So the aim of my presentation today is to discuss the findings of my cross-cultural comparative studies, which I started in 1994 when I lived in Canada. And I was always focused on sweat lodges and saunas because I had a chance to visit many sweat lodges, particularly with the Cree in in Montreal. And my books almost always have an eco-cosmological perspective. I look at how the sauna has been an eco-socially sustainable practice. And I've looked particularly at the animistic philosophy and how it is useful for preventing all the bad things that are happening in the world today, from climate change to abuse of animals and abuse of humans. I believe that the early sauna culture reflects a matristic worldview of balance. And what is especially interesting is that the further we go back in prehistory, the more rituals around the fire and the hearth were in the hands of women, as we also heard from Dalva and Becky in the previous session. Next. So I have written 8 books on the sauna, and these are the Finnish ones, which focus on mythology. And now what I didn't include is the book, the first one that I did with Raija Varkentinen and Pekka Halonen, Jorma Halonen, called Sweating with the Finns, Sauna Stories from North America. And it was published by Lakehead University in Thunder Bay. But in those days, there was not much interest in the sauna. So I'm really delighted that this thing has changed, and now there's a real movement around the world. Next. Another book where I refer to the sauna as part of our culture is the Finnish goddess mythology and the Golden Woman, which has information that has not been anywhere else about the great goddesses that have been erased from our cultural knowledge. Next. This book that I just finished during the Christmas holidays is Finnish Sauna Culture Laid Bare. And here I focus on metristic cosmologies and on the life cycle rituals on which I wrote in Finnish prior to this. I haven't got a publisher yet, and I've written a French version also, but for that one too, I'm looking for a publisher. Next. So, since I promised to talk about the sacred, of course, what we mean by the sacred has been defined by patriarchal religions, Christianity, and the whole notion of Holy Spirit. Um, Today, I think, has been some would say downgraded, others would just say that it has been transformed into simply talking about the meaning of life and ethical values. And of course, sauna has a very deep sacred dimension, which has a very different content than, let's say, the patriarchal religions. And that's what I explore in this book to which I referred. Next. So today we talk more about personal growth, sacred meaning as much more than religious experience, to do with mindfulness and meditation, but it tends to be individually focused rather than a kind of collective overall philosophy. But I would say that in the Finnish sauna system, it was a collective worldview, an imaginary, which had gratitude towards all life forms built into it, and a great respect for women as providers of the next generation. And of course, the word loulu, you probably all know that in the other Finno-Ugric languages, there are many words very similar, lil, and so on, that show that it's our concept of the sacred and has to do with spirit. Next. So the meanings of spirituality refer to breath, vigor, ghost, spirits. They're all associated with the sauna. When I was growing up in our extended family cottage in the summer, my grandfather said that there was a special seat reserved in the sauna for the ghost. And we children, we were so scared that we would have to sit in that darkest corner on the benches, and everyone tried to avoid it. But now I understand that what he tried to tell us was that we used to have the ancestors right there with us, just like the sweat lodge has the spirits present. We just didn't understand it because of the strong Christian culture in which we grew up. Next. So the sauna has been a matrix of equality, gift circulation, peace, shamanism, spirituality, health, wellness, multidimensional, emotional, physical, psychological, cultural, and spiritual healing. And the way it creates oneness, this third space, it's through hot and cold, the alternation between the ice plunge and the snow and water, and of course the hot fire. But I would add bear being, and I use this in the two senses of the bear, because the sauna has been considered to be the bear's den. That's one of its early prototypes, because the bears brought living cubs from the den after the winter, the death of winter, and mysteriously were able to bring life in the spring. And this was considered numinous and mysterious, and that's why the bear was divine. And this is also why women were greatly respected, because in the prehistorical period, in the Paleolithic and Neolithic, they were seen to be the ones to give all the life force. And that's why there's so much talk about rebirth and about the sauna as the first sanctuary. The poor person's church and the poor person's first pharmacy. But this, I found that in a lot of cultures, the saunas have been world renewal ritual spaces where collective rituals were held to give luck to the whole nation. So they were not only for family wellness or individual wellness, but they were really ritual spaces. I don't know if they were that way in Finland, except for, the seasonal rituals. We don't have that much knowledge about all these things, but my comparative perspective has led me to imagine what the shared features might have been, and then I show in my book in which cultures we still have the root similarities, on which I will talk now. Next. So this is just to show you that the bear religion and the role of the woman is very central to the imaginary of the sauna. And I have written a book called The Woman Who Married the Bear. And it's also about ritual life and the human-animal connections that were part of the old worldview. Next. Here I give you a poem I've translated from the old poems of the Finns, and it shows you that in the oldest layer of these folk poems, we address the old woman, the authority, the great mother. Old woman of the sauna, Lulu mother, maiden of the air, open the Lulu locks, let the warmth begin to move. So sauna in many of these poems is the embodied mother goddess of birth and of death. And the names for these various sauna spirits are Sanervatar, Saunatar, Kylynakka from Karelia, Auteretar, Suonetar. But today we only have Saunatonttu, the goblin, and he's more like a moral guardian who punishes you if you don't leave the last Lulu to him and leave him food and drink. But the maternal goddesses were not as much into morality because they were representatives of the animistic worldview of balance and protection. So there was a slightly different ethos in that layer. And I think women entrepreneurs would do well to start making products with these sauna mothers, because in sauna shops you mostly find just this Saunatonttu, which is a much more recent phenomenon than the old sauna mothers. And I'm doing art myself and illustrating my books to make these figures known, so that we are recovering the lost cultural traditions that are important to women. Next. So through the investigation of several sauna and sweat lodge cultures and their remnants, we can trace the changes that have taken place in the spiritual imaginary and the experience of the sacred. And I believe, as someone who has suffered violence in patriarchy, I feel that we women need a spiritual symbolism to empower ourselves and to have a better self-image, because the body image of women is not always very positive in a patriarchal culture. So I think that bringing back this feminine aspect is very important, just as it's important to bring positive images of men through the sauna, and to allow them to heal from their own problems in a fraternal sauna context. Next. So in matrilineal or matristic civilizations, the great mother or grandmother and the divine bear enjoyed a particularly high esteem because, well, the women could guarantee rebirth into the same clan. And that's why the Finns, for a long time, until maybe the 19th century, gave the names of dead relatives to their children, because it was believed that way the ancestors had a chance to be reborn. And this is unfortunately a tradition that we're losing as well. People don't realize how important it is to give the name of a dead relative to the children. So my book examines the complex ways in which the saunas echo the Delaware Big House and Sweat Lodge, which actually was in part influenced by the Finns who lived in Delaware and who had close ties with the Delaware Indians. And I focus on these different sacred features of the Delaware Big House and Sauna and show how much similarity they have. Next. So those of you in North America probably know about the Sweat Lodge as a replica of the cosmos, and these willows that are bent to create this Sweat Lodge represent the meaning of life, the path that one follows. Some of them call it the red road, others call it the good white path. And I think our equivalent in the sauna is raise your nature and go into your being. So the idea was to say to the newborn child that he or she should find her own calling and importance in life. And it had nothing to do with the gender script that came later, where they would give tools to the boys and spindles or thread to the girls. So the most ancient aspect of the sauna as well is finding your own calling by meditation and being in touch directly with your spirit guides. And in this picture, you can see there is this focus on the sky world and the underworld. The fire leads to the underworld. It's a three-layered universe with the people in the middle, and the great bear is on top. That's the as above, so below. The bear is in the den on the earth, but also guiding us in the sky world in the great bear. Next. The Ojibwe word for Finn is, I don't know how to articulate it, Madodovini, which means person who takes a sweat bath. So the Finnish fondness for sauna became something that Native American communities noticed early in the 17th century when several Finns moved to the Swedish colony along the lower reaches of the Delaware River, and later in the context of Finnish settlement on reservation lands in the 19th century. Ojibwe people saw the Finnish sauna as equivalent to Ojibwe sweat bath and used the Ojibwe word for it. Next. Surprising thing is that maybe the roots of the sauna is also menstruation lodge. At least for Native people, the men imitated women seeking blood wisdom and vision quests in the menstruation hut. So they even cut little wounds on their legs to imitate the blood shedding that women did. And so that is, according to some people, the root of the sauna or the sweat lodge. Next. There's my kylynakka. It doesn't work. It's a funny picture, but I just wanted to tell you that I'm trying to give voice and face to the lost beings, mothers in the sauna. Next. And this is midsummer sauna on Salervatar, carrying a whisk. Next. So to talk more about the Delaware Big House, it's really easy to look upon it as the prototype, because in the middle of the big house you have a pillar where you hang a bear skin and you allow the bear to be reborn in that way. And that was exactly, of course, the idea of the sampo as well, and the whole mythology of the bear ceremonial that is well known among the Sami and the Finns. So we have a lot of similarities in the symbol system as well. Next. So the basic structure of the sacred place is the three-layered cosmos, the sky world, the middle world, the underworld. And if you look at Pueblo Kivas, they actually go into the underworld through something called Sipupu, and they believe that they can visit their ancestors and get advice from them there. For all of these primal saunas, the cardinal directions are very important, and the door often is to the east of the rising sun and rebirth. And this was also important in Finland, and still is for some people who are aware of the tradition. And the circular form was also very important because it connoted equality. Next. So the following other elements of the worldview that the ancient cultures, I'm referring to the Irish, to the Galician, to the Celtic, and to Finns. What they share, animistic relationship resulting in the personification of the primal elements of water, air, earth, water, celestial symbolism of the Great Bear, about which I just spoke, the centrality of fire as a sacred source of the life force and of healing. And by the way, women have always been the fire keepers, associated with the hearth, and even Cinderella as a fairy tale attests to this old knowledge. So important of this old sacred philosophy is the gratitude, giving thanks to the spirit world, to ancestors, and recognizing that we need the elements of water, air, earth, water, and need to greet them and thank them. And it was impossible to, or let's say less possible to pollute them and to treat badly the nature when you believe that it had its own inherent importance and values. And grandmothers and grandfathers were respected as spirits, whereas today, you just forget about the elderly. There's no more respect, really. Next. And here's another Sauna Emanta poem. Sauna folk, ancient people, rise from beneath the benches, do climb up from the stove, move from the head of Lulu, come here when you are needed to give us help and healing. So we can see that the sauna was embodied, it was personified as a mother that both takes your life at the end of life, but also receives you when the women went to the sauna to give birth. So there's a very rich mythology on the sauna. Next. So to go back to the sacred meaning of sweats, the rituals had as their goal to be initiated into adulthood, to be initiated into finding one's calling and meaning in life, but also to be initiated into marriage and into other life cycle events. And the shamans would focus on people's loss of soul, and they believed that by going into a trance, they could somehow recover the lost soul of people who were suffering, so that they would become whole. And here we can all ask, what has made us lose our soul today, and what kind of shamanism would we need to become whole in this world? Next. This is an interesting picture of Galician Iron Age sauna. It's a reconstruction. Here, the idea is not the circular sauna, but it's the oldest form of going into the ritual space from underneath a woman's splayed legs. On the bottom, you see a very small hole from which you enter the sauna, and this abstract form that you see with a blue pillar in the center, that's a Shield Nagig image, which was very common in Ireland especially, and in Celtic countries. And the idea was that you were invited to re-enter literally the womb of the mother and to experience the rebirth. And this structure imitates the road of life, the path of life towards rebirth. Next. So the earliest core symbols are the womb and the bear's layer because of the importance of the life force and the holy cycle of birth, death, and rebirth, which all have to do with the maternal authority because women were supervising all of those life cycle events. And the mother represented protection, shelter, safety, and care. And the first shamans, according to Barbara Tedlock, were women, and in the animal world, the bears, because they knew how to find healing herbs in the forest, and humans imitated them and got the herbs from the bears. Next. You can actually skip, go forward. I want to show some pictures because I know that we're running out of time. Okay, that's my sauna art. Go forward. The fireplace, this is the picture I wanted to show you. So this is old European Neolithic time, about 4,000, 3,000 years before Christ. And it was a goddess culture with women's councils, just like they have women's councils still in among the Iroquois. And the proto house that some scholars have analyzed in Moldavia were all built as mother houses, and you would enter them in this way from underneath the women's legs. But the church later on in the Christian times considered it to be pornography and forbade and got rid of the Shilanagig images as fluid, even though their meaning originally was really to go into the maternal womb and to forget about war. This was what was believed in Ireland. Next. So the sauna culture, of course, was the less hierarchical and not male focused, but this changed with Christianity. And although they have retained many of the aspects of the maternal culture, a lot of it has been lost, especially in Finland. But I'm happy to say that it's coming back. There are so many women healers now training to become sauna massage therapists, and so the culture is being reborn, just like the sweat lodge culture came back in the 1980s when I was in Canada. Do I still have time? I don't want to go over time.
You still
Okay.
we have 20 minutes, some time for some Q&A, but maybe you can answer one quick question I'm seeing in the chat here. It's historically, did women actually use the sauna during their menstruation cycle?
Well, today they do. I don't know about the past. I haven't found any information on it. And, in the native system, of course, women had their special huts. So, no, they did not go to the male sweat lodge. And there's still this belief that they should not go there when they're on their period. But originally it was separate. Women went to the menstruation hut in the native culture and the men went to the sweat lodge. But now it's all mixed up. But in my book, I have a whole series of interviews with native elders who explain all of this. And I wanted to make sure that the native voice came through them so that it's their own history and not what anthropologists have written about it. But regarding Finns, I don't know. We have nothing about the menstruation that I can find. But the notion of female Baki is very important. It was believed in the agrarian period that the vulva had powers, just like the bear had strong Baki powers. The women did too, and women would protect their children and the cattle and the men by stepping over them. And it's interesting that in the Jewish culture, it's the opposite. You are not allowed to walk over a man or something. So what was considered sacred in many ways has been turned into the opposite. And now, of course, the valva is the swear word because it was sacred in the past. So the female blood has been highly valued, and then with patriarchy it was turned to the opposite. And you know that when you gave birth you had to be churched clean by the church because the act of giving birth was considered impure. And that's really very insulting to women, to turn the sacredness of giving birth to something impure. But that's all about the change in the culture. So do you have other questions or shall I go on? I just basically have pictures from my book about the different kinds of saunas and phenomena.
Let's continue with the slides and we can pick up some questions toward the end.
Okay, so the Delaware Big House ceremony, it was an annual religious event of thanksgiving and renewal involving 12 days of prayer. And even the 12 days, has to do with the moon cycles, and a lot of the numbers in the ancient sweat traditions are straight from matriarchy. Number 13 uh, has to do with pregnancy, and why is it now a defamed, a negative number? It's because it was sacred before. And so a lot of the numbers from 3 to 7 to 9 had to do with women's cycles, bodily processes, and that's why they have been turned either to the opposite or they have been appropriated for other meanings. And I think it's so funny that on airplanes you don't have seat 13 in some companies because of, matriarchal value of that number. Anyway, let's move on. Okay, this is interesting. The Golden Woman with many names is a Finno-Ugric goddess from Perm, Yarmia, in the northeastern part of Fennoscandia. And I've studied this Russian goddess. I mean, not Russian, but well, actually, it's a Slavic and Finno-Ugric goddess, and I believe now that it's also a Finnish and Sami goddess, because it's the general Great Mother with different local names. And there's so much information about it when you start looking for it. But it's interesting that this image of the human, the prototype, which was woman, not man, was also modeled on the 3 layers of the universe, of the cosmos, so that you would, in many pictures of this goddess, you would have birds on her head, and then you would have children and the generations and the other species in the middle part, and then on the underneath the feet you would have the creepy crawlies, the snakes, the bear, hedgehogs, because they were animals who were reborn and represented death and renewal and rebirth. So these ideas of birth, death, and renewal are everywhere in the matriarchal period, and in the period which carries traces of that philosophy. So it was not an anthropocentric God image, like a white man sitting on a cloud in the sky, but it was an image of the divine rooted in the earth, but with connection in the heaven. And it wasn't focused on humans, it was everything together. And I'm writing another book about this great goddess, who also is in a way embodied in the sauna with this idea of the 3-layered universe and cosmos, where everybody is taken into consideration. Next. So the roots of religion, I believe that they are in caves, in kotas and sweat lodges or huts. Fire and earth have been key symbols of spiritual life since the Paleolithic. They have been traditionally associated with women as the ones to tend the hearth. And the bear apparently gave the use of fire, especially to women. And Dalva and Beck talked about recognizing that we are on native lands. And I have also done work with the Sami because, we have to recognize also that we are on their land and respect their culture. And so I have also written post-colonial books on the Sami colonial experiences, but I don't want to go deeply into their philosophy because they want to do it themselves. But I noticed that their goddesses, Matderaka, Saraka, and Uksaka, they are also these three goddess figures, Akkas, who are in a sauna type kota and guardians of the door, guardians of the underworld, and of life and death. So there are affinities across the board, and I think that these are also elements from matriarchal times. Today, of course, the Sami gods predominate. The male gods are considered the most important, but Saraka in particular has remained important in their culture. But the fire is again very important in this culture. And there's again this three-tiered cosmos, the microcosm and the macrocosm being mirrored. Next. So woman house is a very interesting concept. It's one of the first dwellings that have been studied in the Neolithic era. And it seems to echo the prehistory of the sauna as well, because you enter the protective and nurturing home from underneath a mother's legs. And there's a lot of information about that and the matriarchal eras in old Europe. More information is coming out. This was considered fake news for a long time, but now with radiocarbon and DNA new research, it has been found that Maria Gimbutas, who found these old European cultures, was right, and that they were egalitarian, peaceful cultures. For instance, the area of Ukraine was peaceful for 3,000 years, and they didn't find any weapons in the graves and no sign of class society. So that's a very interesting finding as well. And the houses were modeled on the mother. Next. So where the church refers to the body of Jesus Christ in the Eucharist, the sauna has also been looked upon as a maternal body that gives and takes life. So the sauna or löyly, now called mechanically only as mere steam, is a kind of maternal body of life and death and reflects the anatomy of the great goddess. So in this light, the stove is her womb and uterus, the fire is the life force, and the steam is the breath and the spirit. The benches are the ribs of her body, and the door is the vulva, the birth gate. And she opened the gate between worlds and let the child pass through. And we have so little left of this symbolism, unfortunately. Next. So in today's dynamic and less sacralized world, it is hard to recognize the identification of the house with the cosmos. The archimetaphor of the maternal womb as culture of care has been replaced by the patriarchy, but sacred spaces were sites of rebirth and regeneration based on culturally maternal symbolism. Next. So this is a bit reductive. I should avoid binary opposites. Life is more nuanced, I know that, but time doesn't allow me to go into the fine nuances. So if you want to contrast matriarchal and patriarchal cosmologies, the notion of time is different. In patriarchal cosmology, you have linear time, transcendence, resurrection. In matriarchal cosmology, you have cyclical time, eternal return, and return to your own clan, rebirth. The patriarchal cosmology focuses on the Sky Father, law and command and morality expressed by the Sauna Tonttu, for instance, whereas in the matriarchal cosmology, the focus is on the earth, the womb, and relationship and care. And everything is immanent. Immanent means the sacred is right here, not somewhere in the other world only. There is more of a balance between the different layers of the cosmos, and the spiritual is not reduced to any one area or gender. So in the Finnish old poems, you have references to Ukko, the pagan male god, and to Jumala, already a Christian god, and to Väinämöinen as creators of Löyly. But I believe it's originally Alteretar, Ilmatar, Veen Emo. They were the ones who were the creators, the first creatrix figures, who combined air and earth and water and all of those elements to create life. I'm not for deleting the male gods from our cosmology, but I think that we need to add the women into it to have a full picture of reality and to respect everything and everybody, and not just, those who place themselves in the sky world as the only supreme beings. Next. Okay, here start my extra material if we have time. There is a close-up now of the Shilana gig in abstract form. So this is the Galician Portuguese sauna, where you enter from a very narrow door, because it reflects the initiation, the difficulty of being dismembered. The idea is that you are ritually, but symbolically dismembered. You have to do a bit of suffering in order to then reach a new stage of life. And these are Celtic symbols about the life force. And this is a mother house from Macedonia, which shows the relevance of the mother image and the fire and birth and nourishment, because the sauna, of course, was also a place where you created malt or beer, or you dried meat and everything like that. So it's been a maternal space in its beginnings. Next. And here is an image of the Shilana gig, who is opening the door into the new realm, altered state of consciousness. And as you can see, this is not pornography, because this image evokes the sky world. In other words, you are entering a divine space by going into the divine womb. And so the Catholic Church that called it pornography, or banned these images as negative. They did not understand, or they understood but wanted to banish the matriarchal spiritual world. And there's the same picture of the Shilana gig in an abstract form. And here's, the sauna was used for raising love energies. Women would pick their own sweat and pour it into the glass of the guy that they wanted to attract. And they had all kinds of rather funny or weird customs of trying to attract the opposite sex. And Lemmetar was the goddess of this tradition, full of eros and that kind of symbolism. We have a very rich folklore tradition of these poems, and they're quite explicitly erotic, but without anything to do with pornography. They were simply a joyful uh, expression of the pleasure of sexual love. Next. But of course, we also have the negative figures. This is Kiputar, Kiputyttö Kirsti, who's sitting where three rivers come together, and she's a kind of a masochistic goddess because she's unhappy if you don't bring her pain and disease, so that she can stir it in a pot and then throw it away into the north. North was where you wanted to send all the bad things. Somehow it represented death. And you had to know the words of origins of anything that you wanted to cure. So here she is doing away with pain. And of course, that's what we do in rituals. I have held some rituals in Finland with women who have suffered sexual abuse. You know, in the darkness, people were able to share their bad experiences, and then we would throw the bad experience on the rocks to the löyly, and it was gone. And I found out that in the past what they have done is take a woman who was raped into the sauna, and they would wash her. The sisters or friends would wash her with flowers, and then no, sorry. First, they would cover her with coal so that she was all black and stained, because there was this talk about losing your honor if you were raped. But then they washed her with the flowers, and then they took the whisk and put it in the oven, in the stove, and let it burn away. So that was imitative magic, and the purpose was to get rid of the shame and to be reborn as a virgin. And so that was a very powerful way of helping the woman who had suffered. And I think Kirsti represents this kind of healing. I know that you have questions there, but since I'm talking, I can't read at the same time. So the only way we can do that is that somebody reads
I
to
can help
me.
with that. Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Hey, we have a question from Dr. Katya May. Question concerning temperature. What is the sauna temperature in Finnish tradition during washing a dead body or during childbirth or during initiation rites?
Uh, I would think that it's like 35 degrees Celsius. I don't know Fahrenheit. I mean, it's not very hot because, I mean, I've given rituals myself, and because you're there for 30, 40 minutes, you know, you would suffocate if you had more than 30 degrees. And then you know, you let the air come in as well, because when you're lying on the benches and doing anything, whether it's washing a dead person or giving birth, I mean, the purpose is to have the warmth as something gentle on your body, but not to have a ritual of heat. So that's a completely different thing than when you take 80 degrees and you really get your blood circulating. But for any ritual, I would think that it's like 30 degrees. Not, it's like a summer day.
And are these rituals segregated by gender?
That depends, because there's no absolute rule. I mean, the birth and death rituals in the past were normally done by women, and you know, if the dead person was a man, then you know it was like man and a woman. But um, Karelia had its own traditions, and Hame and the other parts of Finland had their own. There's no absolute rule about that. It's a bit like the native cultures. You have some similar pan-Indian philosophies, but then every culture, every nation has its very specific own rituals. So that's hard to say in more detail.
Thank you for that answer. We have a question from Mark. I know Mark has a mobile sauna and he has some sauna haltiat, some sauna stones, spirit stones. Can you discuss the role of those and are they different from the sauna tonttu?
Yeah, I think that in the tradition, the idea was that the family would go to the beach or to the river, whatever, pick the stones and particular kinds of rocks, and create the altar together, because that would unite them somehow. And they all had their own specific rock that they had put on this stove as a kind of altar. So now that you get these automatic uniform rocks from the store, you've lost a ritual. You just pour them and there's no relationship, there's no connection anymore. And the Tonto is, again, there could be many stories, I don't know, but the only thing I know about the Tonto tradition, which came from Sweden actually, the tomte is Swedish for an elf. It apparently came from a kind of moralistic culture of Christianity where you were taught to not take a bath too late at night and to leave food and drink for the tonto. So it was kind of everyday morality to keep you moderate in your sauna habits. But the rocks are very ancient and they have spirits, and you can have your own relationship with the rock that you bring into the sauna. And I don't know if that answered the question, but another thing is, I was taking to a modern sauna recently, and they were so proud to show me that they had automatic sprinklers in the ceiling, and you didn't have to throw lolu anymore because the automatic sprinklers calculated the efficiency of the moisture and all of that. So this kind of engineering culture, I don't like it, because now you don't remember the ancestors anymore. You don't throw the water yourself. You don't have a report with the spiritual side because it's all automated. It's like the AI and the mobile phone and everything like that. You just sit there and you're a consumer of Lolu. So it's not my cup of tea. Maybe somebody else doesn't matter to them, but I think that the core experience is creating löyly. Actually, in Finnish you say luoda löylyä. You don't actually throw it, you create it in a round format, and you respect the spirits of the stones, and you create a good spirit for everyone in the sauna. But these subtleties, we are losing them, and I think it's a shame that the school system doesn't teach us anything about this. Okay, there's an image of the Irish sauna, and you can see that they were built in the image of the womb and the bear's den, and they are very specifically bear's den type saunas where you crawl in for rebirth.
So I know there's a lot more of
That's
slides. This one?
you can see here.
Wow.
That's really like a bear's den. And so, I mean, I'm not talking symbolically when I say it's like a bear's den. They really try to make it exactly like the bear's den. And Finnish men would actually become bears before they went bear hunting. They wanted to become bear, and by becoming one with the bear, they would be able to locate the bear and to be able to hunt it down. But the women's tradition was different. Women would marry the bear and spend the winter in the den with the bear. And it's funny that in North America you have now this movement about some women who are fed up with patriarchy choosing bears over men. It's a whole discussion in TikTok
They might be a little
because they say who
cuddlier.
is more.
So
Yeah.
we're kind of
Anyway.
wrapping up on time, but thank you so much. Maybe I can ask you one more question, just a closing thought, and then we'll do our raffle. But why is it important to bring spirituality back to sauna practice, especially here in North America where are still learning it? Why is the spiritual component so important?
I think that the technological world has and the addictive patriarchy with TikToks and the short-term focus that you have in social media, everything like that, AI, all the technological inventions have removed us from our body and from nature. And there are a lot of studies that the mental health problems are the result of being divorced from nature and our connection with each other. And I think that it's a collective hub. That's where you retain your personal relationship with your family members, with your relatives, your neighbors. It's a social space, and it's a place where you feel safe to confess your sins, so to speak, and get renewed. There's so many reasons. I mean, there's whole books on the health benefits of the sauna. So I think, and if you compare it with the church, church is very important to a lot of people. So I don't want to put down Christianity when it's the good Christianity, but women don't always feel accepted in some parts of Christianity, and so the sauna is the safe place, and you can work on your body image, and you can, it's an embodied experience. You're not only in the brain space, so there's a lot of things that are happening in the sauna.
Wonderful. I'm going to drop Karina's website into the chat, so please do look at her books and dig deeper, because sauna is such a soulful, deep, historical, ancient practice. And so thank you, Dr. Karina, for bringing that into the session today. There's so many hearts. I hope you're seeing all the claps and the hearts that are popping up, because they've been going
Thank
the
you.
whole time.
But I would have wanted to read all how can I read these comments anywhere? Of course, I could
will
read.
send you we save them all, so I'll send you the whole
Okay,
list.
I would be interested in answering the questions. If anyone wants to write to me,
And your
my
email
email,
is
karina.kailo@gmail.com. So you can always ask me more through email.
May you have beautiful sauna rituals. May everyone have a beautiful sauna ritual practice. And maybe today, maybe tomorrow, may sauna always be a part of your spiritual practice. Thank you, Dr. Karina, for being here. We so appreciate you and your time, and being up late in Oulu, of course, cultural capital. If you visit, let her know. She's got an Airbnb and a sauna, so we can always
Two
come.
saunas.
2 saunas. All right. Kiitos kaikille. Thank you to you all.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Look at those beautiful hearts going. Yes.